several years.
It's amazing, Mr. Toad!
So get ready to go wild in the country on a wickedly funny and endlessly entertaining roller coaster ride. Terry Jones's The Wind in the Willows.
Singing a song which bless her.
And now the national and international headlines brought to you by ITN News.
Good morning. Richard Branson has said he'll wait at least a year before his next balloon adventure following last night's failure of his round-the-world attempt. ITN's Terry Lloyd reports on how Branson had to ditch in the Pacific.
US Coast Guards talked the pilots down within view of Pearl Harbor.
5 miles from your position, we'll be circling. We have the helicopters in sight.
They had flown 12,000 miles at speeds of 250 miles an hour when suddenly they hit a wall of bad weather and dropped out of the powerful jet stream. They had crossed North Africa, Europe and Asia and had gone past the halfway line. They were in effect on their way home when the winds literally turned against them. The 3 crew members made the decision to ditch rather than parachute out. They described it as a controlled landing, even though the Pacific swell proved dangerous. The capsule and balloon were dragged 2 miles, bouncing all the way, before the crew climbed outside and jumped into the water. Safely back at Barbers Point Naval Air Station, the pilots gave their reaction.
Happy to be alive. Obviously, marginally disappointed that we didn't make it the whole way. We really thought we had it in our grasp.
It was a multi-million-pound mission, and every crew member's ambition was to make it all the way around the world. Terry Lloyd, ITN, Honolulu.
Huntsmen will be holding nearly 300 meets today amid demonstrations by opponents of hunting. It's the first Boxing Day clash between the two sides since Parliament failed to pass a bill to outlaw hunting. There's a full English Premiership soccer programme today. Middlesbrough's clash with Liverpool gives Michael Owen a chance to confront Paul Gascoigne. Finally, the internet investigator Matt Drudge, who first publicised Bill Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky, has claimed Hillary Clinton punched her husband at the White House just before the vote to impeach him. Bodyguards allegedly stepped in after Mrs. Clinton hit the president and bruised his face, according to the Drudge report. That's Boxing Day's morning news from ITN. Bye-bye.
In this box is the biggest Christmas present you're ever likely to see. It's a million big ones, and Santa could be delivering it to you. You have to earn the dosh by skillfully answering questions. To take part, call 0891 444444.
Who wants to be a Christmas millionaire? Tonight at 8:30 on ITV. Call now. 0891 444444.
And I'll see you tonight. Ho, ho, ho!
Good morning, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome to GMTV on Boxing Day. I'm Claudia Cervasis. In a moment, children's programmes, but first, the main news. Richard Branson has told of his sadness at failing in his latest attempt to circumnavigate the globe in a balloon. The millionaire and 2 co-pilots, Steve Fawcett and Per Landstrand, were rescued by the US Coast Guard off the coast of Hawaii on Christmas Day. It was Branson's 3rd attempt to travel round the world. Sarah Land reports.
Safe, well, but disappointed, the three balloonists are back on dry land. The balloon had travelled about 12,500 miles, more than halfway around the globe, before running into trouble. Branson and co-pilots Steve Fossett and Per Lindstrand decided to ditch their third attempt at the record after the balloon got caught in a low-pressure system and they feared they'd get stuck. There were some nerve-wracking moments as the men were rescued by the US Coast Guard from the Pacific Ocean off the coast of Honolulu. But despite bouncing along shark-infested waters, Branson emerged smiling with no regrets.
Obviously, marginally disappointed that we didn't make it the whole way. We really thought we had it in our grasp, and then we hit this wall of bad weather, and we just couldn't get the balloon through it.
This wasn't co-pilot Steve Fossett's first brush with such danger. He plummeted into the sea off the coast of Australia in a solo bid at the record. The title to become the first to circumnavigate the globe in a balloon remains one of the most elusive to adventurers. Now the race is back on and there's no shortage of rivals. A leading British balloonist is planning a similar mission and just waiting for the right weather conditions.
We're completely ready to go. We're working on a 3-day forecast ahead, and as soon as we see a window that looks right for us in 3 days' time, we will beetle down to Spain and off we'll go.
But Branson will be back, and the pilots have already pledged to try again. He's also appealing to all nations to allow what he calls magnificent beasts to fly through their airspace. This trip was nearly abandoned when China refused his balloon access to Chinese airspace. But for Branson this time, it's third time unlucky. Sarah Land, GMTV News.
More than 300,000 anti-hunt campaigners will stage a series of protests across the country later today. Boxing Day is traditionally the most popular date in the hunting calendar, and saboteurs say they'll be out in force. They'll take place in Kent, Surrey, Essex and Yorkshire. A poll out today shows 66% of the public want a hunting ban. It's reported President Clinton was hit in the face by wife Hillary on the day he was impeached. The internet reporter who revealed Clinton's affair with Monica Lewinsky claims Hillary struck her husband last Saturday, leaving a bruise that's being hidden with makeup. Clinton faces a trial next month in the US Senate that could remove him from office. From Bondi Beach to Bethlehem, people around the world have been celebrating Christmas. David Prescott's been looking at the global festivities.
For the first time in 30 years, Cubans officially celebrated Christmas, which had been banned under the communist rule of President Fidel Castro. Hundreds flocked to the capital's Havana church for a traditional midnight mass in what's widely seen as a clear sign of increased tolerance by the government of religious activity. For those down under, it was a far cry from a white Christmas. Aussies sweltered in the sun, and Sydney's famous Bondi Beach was packed with sunbathers in Santa hats. In Israel, Christian worshippers attended Mass in the holy city of Bethlehem. But this year's celebrations were more subdued as Middle East tensions kept tourists away. Israeli police kept security tight in Jerusalem, closing off roads and erecting roadblocks in case of Muslim militant violence. Tens of thousands of people gathered at the Vatican to hear the Pope's annual Christmas message. He called for a ban on the death penalty and an end to the violence that blurs the festive season. The 78-year-old pontiff then wished the world a Merry Christmas in 58 languages, including Chinese and Japanese. And since they couldn't come home for Christmas, Christmas went to the US and British troops in Kuwait. They celebrated the occasion with traditional cake and a game of basketball. David Prescott, GMTV News.
Now a look back at the stories making the week's headlines. A woman made medical history by giving birth to the first set of surviving octuplets in the world. A sudden cold snap claimed the lives of at least 19 people in the United States. But we start with the 10th anniversary of the Lockerbie air disaster. The Scottish town remembered the 270 people who perished when a Pan Am jumbo jet was blown out of the skies by a bomb on board.
270 names on the memorial in the cemetery at Lockerbie. The victims came from 21 nations. 10 years on, the world is remembering. But the people of this small Scottish town will never forget the day that Pan Am Flight 103 was blown out of the sky above them.
I realised houses had disappeared. I knew there had been houses in that. And off to my left I could see a wrought iron gate. And this wrought iron gate was actually melting.
The unimaginable horror of that day means Lockerbie will forever be synonymous with tragedy, and people here don't need a 10th anniversary to make them remember.
I think people tend to put the memories to the back of their mind, but obviously they're still there. But, people have to get on with their lives, don't they?
But 10 years on, families are still waiting for Colonel Gaddafi to hand over the 2 Libyans suspected of the bombing. The anniversary is being kept deliberately low-key, a wreath to be laid by the Duke of Edinburgh and services in the town and Westminster Cathedral. No more anniversaries will be officially marked. No one here will ever forget, but it's time to put the tragic past behind them.
Arctic conditions swept in at the weekend, plunging temperatures in Minneapolis City down to -21°, and in Montana State to -34. Only last week, much of America was basking in unseasonably warm weather. Even normally mild California has been caught up in the grip of the big chill.
If it gets too cold, we'll lose our tree, and a little bit above that, we'll lose our fruit.
It was a picture repeated across much of the continent, from near the Mexican border in the west to New England in the east. At least 19 people have died in motorway accidents on icy roads in less than a week. Forecasters are warning the south and southeast of the country could be in for a major Christmas ice storm. But while people in most affected areas want the chill to thaw, some, like this snowboarding Santa in West Virginia, hope it'll stay.
Offers to provide the octuplets with everything from nappies to a new home are flooding into Texas Children's Hospital, where doctors are working round the clock to keep the babies alive. In the neonatal intensive care unit, 7 are still on respirators, only 1 baby breathing for herself. Heart and lung problems are the main fears for the 6 girls and 2 boys, still smaller than their mother's hand.
On average, they're about the size of a Coke can. There's an 85% chance that each one of these will survive. And there's about a 75 to 80% chance of those that do survive that they'll be totally normal.
No complete sets of octuplets have ever survived. Like most, the Texas babies were conceived with the help of fertility drugs.
During the course of treatment, you use ultrasound scans to find how many eggs are developing. And it would be apparent that this woman had at least 8 eggs developing. And I think the fertility treatment should have been stopped at that point.
The baby's 27-year-old Nigerian-born mother, Nikem Chukwu, has had surgery for internal bleeding, but could leave hospital as early as this weekend. Her babies will stay in for at least 3 months.
Now a quick look at the weather for the weekend. Rain will spread eastwards to reach most places by this afternoon. Heavy showers will replace the rain in the west later. Highest temperature 11 Celsius, 52 Fahrenheit, with winds reaching severe gale force. Tonight, rain will turn to snow as it crosses the Scottish mountains, but many other places will become dry. Lowest temperature 0 Celsius, 32 Fahrenheit, with more severe gales, especially in the north. Now sport, and rain has washed out the opening day of the 4th Ashes Test between Australia and England at the Melbourne Cricket Ground. But it's back to work today for the nation's footballers. There's a full Boxing Day programme north and south of the border. Greg Atkins looks ahead to the big fixtures.
Well, top of the table, Aston Villa face rejuvenated Blackburn. Manchester United entertain the Old Trafford faithful with a home game against rock-bottom Nottingham Forest. It's tied at the wrong end with just 4 points separating the bottom 5. Southampton play host to second-place Chelsea. Matt Le Tissier admits he finds the Xmas schedule tough.
For most footballers, it's probably quite easy. For some of us, it's a bit more difficult. It's okay. I mean, we train Christmas morning, then we play Boxing Day, then we'll be travelling up to Nottingham the day after that, and then playing against Forest on the Monday. So it's going to be a pretty busy time.
In Scotland, top-of-the-table Rangers have dispensed the presents to Glasgow's hospitals, eaten the turkey, and are looking for gift-wrap goals against St Johnstone. There's one big match on Sunday as Celtic travel to Dundee, looking to get their title defence back on track. Greg Atkins, GMTV Sport.
That's it from me, and I hope you have a wonderful Boxing Day. Next on GMTV, it's The Big Garage.
Hey! Oh, this is great. Morning, everyone. Hey, Dad. How you doing? All right, what's the plan for today, then? Oh, we're gonna have lots and lots of fun.
Oh, sounds good to me. What do you think, Sissy? Well, I like fun. When can we start?
Right now, baby. Watch out, here come Pump, Mimi, and all their friends.
Oh, goody.
Because Mimi is our youngest taxi, she still has a lot to learn. Sometimes, I ask the older taxis to help her. What do you think would happen if two of the taxis both wanted to show her around? I'd like one of you taxis to spend the afternoon with Mimi.
Babysitting.
Not too cool.
You can do it, Yorkie.
No, you can do it, Zigzag. It's to show her the rules of the road, teach her how